This is Marc Bussanich, Senior Reporter for Lair Press, and we're here today speaking with the New York City Comptroller, John Liu. John, welcome.
Good to see you, Mark.
Mr. Liu, yesterday, Local 375 talked about demanding that the mayor restore almost $500 million that was given back to the city by the corporation that was responsible for the CityTime project. They were demanding that, for example, that money be used to rehire Local 375 members, municipal employees. And they referenced a report that your office produced. So when your team produced that report, were you surprised by how wide that gap would be, or were you not surprised?
I think people have been talking about the 1% for quite some time. Obviously, the Occupy Wall Street movement coined the term, but it's not just rhetoric. Unfortunately, it's reality. In the country, the top 1% take in a huge share of the nation's income, and people have long felt that in New York City it's potentially even worse in terms of a gap that's even that splits the haves and have-nots even further apart. We found that in New York City, the 1% make a full third of the income that's generated by all of the people combined in New York City, and that's just a wealth gap that is so much wider than the nation that it does not contribute to the long-term prosperity of the city. And so, moving forward, the point of the report was not only to show where we are, but to show how we should proceed forward. We saw that in the last period of economic recovery, in the 04 to 07 range, it's the top 1% that got almost huge. They got huge increases in their income, whereas everybody else pretty much stayed flat or had very nominal increases. We want to see policies in this city that help reduce or narrow this income gap, and that if there is, and I hope there is, a period of economic prosperity restored, that it's everybody's income that goes up and not just the top 1%.
What do you think would be some of the most important issues that the next mayor of New York City will have to face or address?
Well, I think it's all of our responsibilities, but starting with the mayor, to address the income inequalities, to make sure that New York City is a city, even as we grow, because we are growing, where people are able to find opportunities and have a level playing field to compete for the varying opportunities, whether they be women and minority-owned businesses looking for some city business, to people being able to apply equally for positions both inside government as well as inside the private sector. We have to make sure that the jobs are not just created, but created in a way that is available to everybody to seek opportunities, that it's not just about lowering the unemployment rate, but just as importantly, lowering the unemployment disparities, where unfortunately we have seen communities of color continue to face much higher unemployments, not because they can't do the work or they have any shortage of skills and talent, but because all too often the opportunities are not given equally.
One last question, Mr. Liu. Do you think that working people have to, or do you think they should be a little bit concerned, given that Mr. Walker in Wisconsin, the governor, was able to survive the recall?
I think a recall campaign is, from the outset, very difficult. The fact that there was such a high percentage of people who did not want this particular governor to continue sends a very strong message, not only to him, but to all the other would-be governors who think that they can walk all over working men and women.
Mr. Liu, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Good to see you, Mark.
Speaking with you. All right.
Same here.